Hey guys, Jen Banks here with Banks Canine Solutions. I'm based out of Fitchburg, Massachusetts. I offer pet dog training both in people's homes and in group classes. And today I wanted to do a video on the type of equipment I use to train dogs. So I've got a few different types of collars and harnesses and whatnot in front of me. And I also have my dog here, and I'm going to talk about all the different collars and whatnot, when I would use them. And then I'm going to show you how to fit them on my dog. So the very first thing that I recommend people get is actually a harness. This is a step-in harness, which means that you put it on the ground and the dog steps into it, and then you clip it behind them. I really like the harness for puppies, and also for brand new dogs, because I'm not so worried about teaching obedience with a brand new dog. I'm worried more about building a relationship and building motivation to work with me. So the harness actually allows the dog to pull, and I don't have to worry about them choking themselves on their neck or learning to pull on their collar and whatnot. This is also what I use anytime I'm hiking or if I'm out using a long line. You can check out my long line series. I use the harness a lot for that sort of stuff. So this is number one. This is a martingale collar. This is another thing I'll use on a dog that I don't really know. What I like about the collar is it slips around the head, and then it's got this chain piece here. So when it's fitted properly, the dog can't slip out of it. So if you have a dog that you're not familiar with, or maybe they have a habit of slipping out of their collar, this is definitely something I would use. But this is actually what I use on a fully trained dog. I don't love training dogs on this collar. Depending on how sensitive the dog is, I like to actually use prong collars for dogs in training. So I've got a 3.0 and a 2.5 millimeter prong collar. This would be for just a larger dog versus a smaller dog. So I think anything over 40 pounds, I'll usually put this on. Sometimes I can get away with the smaller one up to 50 pounds. And I'll show you how to use it or how to fit it in just a second. So I like to use the prong collar for dogs who are not super sensitive around their neck, which in my experience is a lot of dogs that I work with. If I can get away with working a dog on a martingale collar, I certainly will, but probably about 90% of the dogs I work with work on one of these collars. This is actually the collar I train Moonpie on. This is not the right collar for Bamba, my other dog, my older dog. Prong collar is not right for him. It actually really scared him, so it's not a tool I use on him. But I rarely work with a dog that doesn't do well on this collar. And I also use remote training collars, which I have here. This is a product made by eCollar Technologies. This is the only e-collar I work with. I find that it's much more gentle than a lot of other e-collars, and it's got a lot more flexibility in how it feels to the dog. So I can work with a really sensitive dog or a really hard-headed dog on the same collar. So I'll be putting this on Moonpie as well. Let's get you up here. If you hear heavy breathing, it's because she's sitting right under my laptop there. Come here, babe. Good girl. Yeah. So we'll lift you up. Oh, good girl, baby. And she has panties on because she's in heat, and not because she's not potty trained. So if your dog is wearing panties because they're not potty trained, you should be giving me a call. So the very first thing I'm going to fit is the harness, because this is I think the priority for anyone who's getting a brand new dog. So I'm going to unclip it. Good girl, baby. You're not going to go anywhere, are you? You know you have food? Good girl. There you go. I'm going to unclip it, and it's got this little piece in the middle, and that's what should go between her two legs, and then one leg should go in each hole, and it clips behind her. So I'm actually going to place it on the crate, and then what I do is I place one leg and then the other leg. And then I clip up behind, and this is where her leash would go. She does have a regular flat collar on, because I don't usually clip a leash to this. It's just on for something to grab. But the martingale collar, the ones I prefer, don't have any clips. So the only way to get it on and off is to actually slide it over the dog's head. Good. So I'll slide it over the head like that. And then it's really loose. So any collar that's down low on the neck is not helping you because the dog is not very sensitive down here. So any pressure you're applying to the neck, if they're on a leash, just usually doesn't get through to the dog. We want something that's high on the neck. So after the collar's on, I need to tighten it. So I put it way up here, right behind the skull, and then I want to pull the chain tight. And when I pull it tight, good girl, baby. When I pull it tight, the chain almost comes all the way together, which I don't want. I want to see more of a triangle. So I'm going to tighten it on her. Be a good girl, baby. Thank you. I want it tight enough on her so that when I pull it, it makes more of a triangle. So that if she wanted to back out of it, she can't. Which also means I can't take it off her head unless I loosen it again. So I need to loosen it to get off. That's how you know it's fitted properly. And then there's a little ring here that the leash gets clipped to. Good girl, babe. I know. You're gonna be my model. And then we rip it off. Good girl. All right. So the prong collar is what I use anytime we're working outside, working on obedience outside. I use the harness for playtime and for hikes, prong collar for obedience and leash walking and whatnot. And the way I need to fit it is, again, high on her neck. So I want it really high up here. Good girl. And I like to twist it around so that the chain is behind her head instead of down below, because I just find it doesn't get tangled as much. Good girl, baby. So that's where it should fit. And I like the whatever normal collar your dog wears is way low on the neck, way down there. So if you're working with your dog, this shouldn't be sliding down the neck. If it is, you have to fix it. Good girl. There you go. And finally is the e-collar. If I was using an e-collar, I certainly don't recommend you go out and buy a prong collar and an e-collar yourself, first of all. I know a lot of trainers do recommend that. I think it's much safer if you hire a professional to help you with these things, because you want to make sure that, first of all, they're the right tools for your dog, and also that you're using them correctly, because any tool, if it's used improperly, it's not going to help you. It's just going to make things worse. So what I do is I do a lot of leash and collar training first before I even think about putting an e-collar into the mix. So I'm using them in combination. I don't use the e-collar by itself. The e-collar has 2 contact points. I don't know if you can see that. They need to be touching the skin, or else the dog doesn't feel it. I know, we're being so good. So what I like to do is have the e-collar lower on the neck than the prong collar. So we want to make sure the e-collar, the prong collar is closest to the head, and then the e-collar is somewhere further down on the neck. Sometimes I'll even put this flat collar between the two. And then what I want to do is I fit it on the back of the neck. And this needs to be fitted pretty snug. Ooh, it's brand new too. So I want to make sure nothing's tangled. Good girl, babe. Look at all your equipment. Yeah, look at all your equipment. There we go. And then once it's there, is that too tight? She says, too tight, Jen. Good girl. And then once it's there, I will wiggle it around a little bit. She's really sensitive to it, which surprised me. But I want to wiggle it around a little bit just to make sure that the contact points are touching her skin. And this is still too loose. Still too loose, huh? There we go. Good girl. And some people will cut the strap so that it's not flopping everywhere. That's really a personal preference. But that's MoonPie with pretty much all the training equipment I use, wearing it all at once. Good girl, baby, huh? So those are training collars. If you are thinking of hiring me, these are definitely tools that you should expect me to at least recommend. That being said, make sure you don't ever let anyone put anything on your dog that you're not comfortable with. So it's definitely, these tools, they work great for me and they work great for my clients. But if you're not using them properly or you don't have faith in them, you're not going to be able to make them work. I would love to answer any questions you guys have about these tools. I know a lot of people have pretty strong feelings about them. So if you're looking to learn more, definitely shoot me an email, go on over to Facebook, ask me a question, so I can help you figure out what's best for you and your dog. Bye for now, guys.